All right, so the live stream is preparing. It's setting up for YouTube Live, and we are going to get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Mark's going to go ahead and start letting some people out of the waiting room. I'll do that first round. And then we're going to take over for some information tonight on Face University all around college career success, something that families do request a lot, so we want to make sure that we get that covered this year in February, just like last year. But we're going to have a little bit of a different presentation. Let me grab the right screen today from a new resource, which is our Denver Scholarship Foundation. So tonight we're presenting with, in partnership of Denver Scholarship Foundation. Their presentation is called Dreams to Degrees. So you're going to get a lot of great information, but we will start with our opening slides. Our DPS land acknowledgement will start us off. Locally native people have a unique and notable history that has impacted the development of the Front Range over the centuries. It's also important that we ground ourselves in the DPS land acknowledgement, which was written by Dr. Tink Tinker in collaboration with our Native American and Cultural Education NACE team in 2021. The DPS community acknowledges our Indigenous relatives who have lived in and cared for this land from time immemorial. We acknowledge the close relationship that Arapaho, Cheyenne, Southern Ute and Ute Mountain Ute, and natives of other tribal nations continue to have with the waters, plants, and all moving things that call this land home. We pledge our respect for those enduring Indigenous connections to the place we call Colorado. And to our students and employees who are part of tribal nations, thank you for being an important part of the DPS community by choosing to learn and work at DPS each day. All right, and thanks for being here. Let's get us set up with interpretation before we move forward. So if you are here, we have Spanish interpretation and Vietnamese. To access that interpretation in just a moment, we'll open up the channel. On your computer, you will click on the globe that says interpretation, and you will select either Vietnamese or Spanish. If you're attending on your phone, you'll need to click on the three dots or three ellipses, then select interpretation, and then select your language. So I'm going to stop my share for a moment and allow our interpreters to introduce those channels in your home language. Let's start with Johnny Vietnamese.
Xin kính chào quý vị, tên tôi là Johnny Thanh, là thông dịch viên tiếng Việt Nam. Chào mừng quý vị đã đến buổi họp mặt ngày hôm nay trên màn ảo. Trong một vài phút chúng tôi sẽ bắt đầu những cái trang thông dịch. Quý vị chúng tôi sẽ mở những trang thông dịch đó bằng cách cho biểu hiện một quả cầu ở phía dưới. Quý vị nhấp chuột vào hình cầu đó, hoặc là quý vị nhấp chuột, nếu mà quý vị dùng cell phone thì có thể nhấp vào ba cái dấu chấm hoặc là cái hình cầu ở trên đó. Sau đó sẽ chọn ngôn ngữ và phòng của quý vị muốn nghe cái ngôn ngữ đó, và chúng tôi sẽ bắt đầu cái buổi làm việc này ngay sau khi các thông dịch viên đã thông dịch cái sự hướng dẫn này. Xin cảm ơn. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. And we also have Spanish, so Ana will introduce the Spanish channel.
Buenas noches. Si desean escuchar la presentación en español y están usando una computadora, en la parte inferior de la pantalla van a ver el símbolo del globo del mundo. Aprieten ese símbolo y seleccionen interpretación, y ahí van a poder escoger qué idioma desean escuchar, si el español, o también tenemos servicios de interpretación en vietnamita. Si están usando su teléfono, en la parte inferior de la pantalla verán tres puntitos, hagan clic ahí, verán interpretación y luego seleccionen el idioma español. Gracias.
All right, and those interpretation channels are now open. I have a couple more slides to share, and then we'll get started with our presentation. So hopefully you can see my screen. We have a FACE vision. You are here for FACE University, Family and Community Engagement. We just want to let you know that when families and communities thrive, we believe every learner thrives. We have 4 core beliefs around family and community engagement: that all parents have dreams for their children and want what's best for them. We believe that all parents have the capacity to support their child's learning. We believe that parents and school staff should be equal partners. And we believe the responsibility for building that partnership between school and home rests primarily with our schools, especially school leaders. When we are in this space, remember we are live streaming on YouTube. So we really want you to be mindful of these norms. Practice respect and trust. Listen to one another, withhold judgment, and create a safe space. Every voice matters, so pause and contribute. We really do want to hear from you and we value your wisdom. Different opinions are welcome. We want you to share open. We want you to stay open to others, and it is okay to disagree. This is a safe space. We will hold space for questions throughout, as well as at the end if you want it to be more private and not live online. We encourage supportive sharing. So offer advice only when you're asked and honor that parenting struggles should be held with compassion and withhold your personally identifiable information. That's birthdays, that's addresses, your school, and your phone number while we're in this session until we let you know that we're no longer live streaming. All right, and to close, there are 5 roles families play from Flamboyant Foundation to accelerate student learning. And what's excellent about this session with the Denver Scholarship Foundation is that this session is going to give you a skill in all of these categories. They're going to help you know how to communicate high expectations for where your child chooses to grow and go as they move into adulthood. It's going to help you monitor their performance and monitor how you are helping them stay aligned with their goals. It's going to help you support learning at home by learning new skills to be able to talk about college and career success. It's going to help you guide their education by learning some resources that you can access at your school and beyond to support. And it's helping you advocate to learn about the resources that exist for you to make sure that your child is able to access all the experiences that are available to them in the Denver community for them to feel successful as they move towards adulthood. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let our presenters, Diana and Miguel, take over and give you guys some education. Remember that you can raise your hand, you can come off mute, and you can type in the chat at any time. And we're really grateful you're here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to have this opportunity on behalf of the Denver Scholarship Foundation to share a little bit about ourselves and the resources that you can be connected to better support your student on their post-high school dreams. Let me share my screen. All right. Is it sharing?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. The title of our presentation today is Families Fuel Futures, Dreams to Degrees. Throughout the presentation, we will have different links where you can take screenshots or you can refer back to visit us and get further information on our website. I will start off by introducing myself. My name is Diana Madriz. I am the assistant director of college access at the Denver Scholarship Foundation, and my role primarily serves as programming and developing our staff when it comes to supporting at the high school level. I will let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miguel Bañuelos Garcia. I'm the Career and Applied Pathways Manager with the Denver Scholarship Foundation. I am also a DSF alum, so I am happy to serve our students, scholars, and our alumni in our programs when it comes to Career and Applied Pathways.
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Andrade. I am the college advisor over at Northfield High School. I work with 9th through 11th grade students. Similar to Miguel, I am also a DSF scholar and alum.
We would like to start off by sharing a video of a family that worked directly with Miguel when Miguel was in the position of college advisor, and their students' journey to set the tone for tonight of the power of family engagement and why we're so excited to continue partnering with families and leveraging those supports. So someone tell me if they can hear this.
Mi nombre es Rebeca Vargas.
You're good.
Mi nombre es Jesús Plata, mi hijo es Eric Plata y mi hijo se graduó de la high school de la John F. Kennedy. Él va a la Universidad de Fort Collins, Universidad Estatal de Colorado. Pues la primera vez que conocimos a Miguel por medio de la DSF, Eric me comentó, dijo, papá, quieren hablar contigo para lo de la universidad. Y yo le dije, pues está bien, pues que me hablen por teléfono. Y ya yo hablé con este muchacho Miguel y me comentó todo lo relacionado a la universidad. Entonces, pues él me comentó que pues la escuela de allá de Fort Collins, que era una de las mejores universidades y que él tenía la posibilidad de asistir a esa universidad. Entonces, pues su mamá no lo dudó y dijo que sí, que se fuera a esa, que aunque estuviera lejos de nosotros, pero que era su futuro de él y que pues todo iba a salir bien. A mí se me hacía complicado porque pues yo nunca había estado relacionado en eso y luego me pedían documentos de mis impuestos y yo decía pues no sé a dónde van a llegar mis documentos, mi información. Lo dudaba, pero yo sabía que lo tenía que hacer por él. Si yo quería ayudar a mi hijo a que fuera a la universidad, pues tendría que tomar los riesgos que fueran para que él asistiera. Si no hubiéramos sabido de esta organización y de Miguel, Eric no estuviera estudiando en la universidad, definitivamente.
Y en esta universidad. Y pues a mí era un orgullo que uno de mis hijos fuera a una gran universidad.
Eric es el único de mis 3 hijos, el más chico que está asistiendo a la universidad. Tal vez mis otros hijos no asistieron a la universidad por falta de información y que nosotros no nos involucramos desde el principio con él. ¿Sí? No sé si por el trabajo o por nosotros no saber que hay lugares donde puede asistir y lo pueden orientar o lo pueden ayudar. Entonces el consejo que nosotros le damos es de que pues se involucren, que vayan y pregunten las ayudas financieras. Más que nada, yo pienso que eso es por lo que los padres nos detenemos en ese aspecto, porque cuando dice uno universidad, luego se le mete a la mente mucho dinero.
Al contrario, tratar de decir si se puede, investigar y apoyarlos. Y estar con ellos. Pues gracias a DSA por el apoyo y por abrir caminos hacia los estudiantes.
Y esperemos que este video lo miren muchas personas que están o estuvieron en nuestra situación para que
apoyen a sus
hijos y les vaya bien en la universidad.
Let me just make sure that I can get this back to present mode. Awesome. We hope you enjoyed that. We will have a chance towards further in the presentation to get a little bit more of your insights as you think about, reflect. Maybe there's some things that resonated with you if you have supported any students through the process, if you have any students that are getting ready for this process, and maybe there's some questions that it sparked from you or some additional feelings that we would love to hear a little bit more about. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Leslie to guide us through the first part of the presentation.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. So we really want to get started talking about when is the right time to start talking about your students' future. So you can start thinking, wondering, and the answer to that question is anytime. Anytime is the perfect time to start talking to your student about their future. It's never too early to start realizing what your student wants to do, what careers they're interested, what their goals are, things like that. So moving forward, today's presentation is going to be going over 4 key components. So it's going to be dreaming, exploring, discovering, and living. So let's start with dreaming. So, how do you help your student dream about their future? What's really important is that we start having these conversations with these students. Ask them, what do you really care about? What activities do you do when you lose track of time? What do you want to learn more about? Big dreams start with bold questions. And so asking students questions about their values, about their passions, things that they want to explore, what clubs and activities they want to be participated in, what they're generally interested are all great areas where students can start having those conversations. In addition, sharing about your own passions and your own aspirations is another amazing way to start those conversations with your students. You want to share what your dreams were as a child, what you want your future to look like, what your interests were, what your experiences have been, what your challenges have been, so that your student gets a full understanding of how you got to where you were or where you are now, and how they can navigate the same path or a different path to get them to where they want to be. Now I'm going to hand it over to Diana.
So one of the key pieces of our presentation is we wanted to start off by something that we know everyone can do, which is having those conversations. And those can be as an example that I have with my 6-year-old is, okay, so if you want to be a dinosaur, what types of things do you think you would need to do to be a dinosaur? Knowing that that isn't going to be something that he's going to be able to do, right? To be a dinosaur, but the imagination and that age appropriateness at that level of just getting excited to ask more questions, to investigate, to really start seeing what kind of things do they like at that age. Does that change? Did that change a couple years later? Did they explore new opportunities? And especially as they change grades, they have access to more information. They have access to maybe more opportunities, and the more that they know, the more that they can get excited about possibilities. So one of the most exciting pieces of our organization is that our biggest partner is Denver Public Schools. And so we are partnered with Denver Public Schools. And so the resources that we share are resources that you as families have access to talking to your student about. So we want to go through what these resources are. We are going to concentrate on 4 key ones: ICAP, Maya Learning, Career Navigator, and counselors. So starting in 6th grade, students in Denver Public Schools participate in individual career and academic plan lessons, so ICAP for short. There are 4 lessons per year that are led by their counselors within the schools. So this is during the school day. The goal with these lessons is to be able to explore their strengths, to set goals, and explore college and career options for the future. So one of the pieces here is that it's really meant to utilize the resources that are in the school and start having these conversations in a more applicable professional way. But these are also meant to complement what's already happening in the conversations at home. So the 4 key areas are academic planning, goal setting, post-secondary and financial planning, and career exploration. One of the resources that DPS uses is called Maya Learning. So every student has access to an account with Maya Learning. They use their DPS ID and the password that they have for their DPS ID email to be able to log into Maya Learning. Parents can also have a parent login, and that's something that can be set up directly with their counselor. And while it doesn't give you the same access to maybe the inventories or some of the lessons that are within Maya Learning, it does give you access to see results and be able to have conversations with your student about their results. So one of the examples is under assessments. your student can have access to an interest profiler. So they can, it's an inventory that the district uses to have language around what type of interest, what type of career industries, what type of things may they want to explore a little bit more based on the way they answered some questions. Work values. So, how to start aligning maybe, hey, I'm really good at talking to people. We hear a lot, you are really good at convincing people to do something that you like. Maybe you should be a lawyer, or you're really good at entertaining people. Maybe you should think about something in the arts or in the entertainment industry. And so, how do students start aligning some of that language that they can then research and tie to specific career opportunities? And then personality. Every student is very different. So, how do they start narrowing down the type of personality that they have? One of the things that we've done with students is the 16 personality quiz, and it's a free quiz. And I can pop it in the chat before the end of the session that goes through different questions, and at the end sends students a report, a pretty detailed report around here are some areas that you can consider and start researching. And students get really excited to have a conversation of, hey, do you see this? It says that you are a really bold leader. You're very communicative. You're not afraid to share your opinion. Do you see this in your classes? Do you see this at home? Is this true for you? And for the most part, the conversations that I've had with students, it's really exciting for them to be like, yeah, this is true. Like, and helping them be able to also communicate who they are. The quintessential question of, tell me a little bit about yourself, or who are you, or what strengths do you have? And even as an adult, that can be hard to communicate. So having those conversations regularly and early on so students can start feeling much more comfortable and being to articulate that can help them in also aligning with their goals. The other piece is the career navigator and counselor. So every student is going to have a counselor. Most DPS schools have a specific career navigator within the building. Some schools may share career navigators, but something that's really important that I want families to know is that a career navigator can also support students in thinking a little bit more internship, apprenticeship, maybe job opportunities depending on the age level. And so what I've screenshotted here is a general model for what DPS has based on work-based learning and then career and technical education. And it kind of goes a little bit in terms of what's happening at the K through 8 level, that you may research a little bit more, what's happening kind of in that transitional period between grades 8 and 9 and 10, and then what can you specifically see happening in the grades 10 through 12, so closer to graduation time. So we don't have a list of all of the career navigators in each school, but the email address that's here, you can send an email to this address and ask for the contact information for the career navigator at your student specific school, and then go from there in terms of making an appointment to learn a little bit more about different supports that are available at your student's school. And typically, parents have the most access to counselors. Counselors are going to have regular meetings with your student one-on-one and small groups and ICAP lessons. And counselors can be a big support because they're getting to know your student on a regular academic basis. And not just for maybe behavioral pieces or maybe not so favorable conversations, but can have really positive conversations around how are you thinking of scheduling my student in classes? So everything from, for example, students can start taking college level classes typically in 10th grade. And so if your student is really interested, students can typically sometimes graduate with a certificate or a 2-year degree by the time they graduate high school, depending on how they start scheduling their classes and doing really well in those classes. So having those conversations early with a counselor can be really helpful to better support your student. And okay, your next level class is going to be this. You can take a sociology class, you can take a literature class, you can take a drawing class, college level classes. And not only are you getting the experience, but you're also getting college level credit while you're in high school. Academics and study habits. So counselors are really supporting students with how are you doing in school? Okay, if a particular class is not going well, what can we do about it early on so that you can be on track to pass the class successfully. Social and emotional well-being. So really focused on making sure that students are transitioning well, especially that transition from 8th to ninth grade, really finding community and feeling connected within the school. Planning for after high school. So us as college advisors, and I'll go into this in a little bit, we partner really closely with the team in each of the schools, especially the counselors, especially career navigators, because ultimately all of these supports are for the student and families to feel like they can maximize opportunities. So we all ultimately have the same end goal in supporting students and families. So definitely recommend that if you have any questions, you start with making an appointment with your student's counselor directly at the school. And then a little bit about Denver Scholarship Foundation. So we are a nonprofit. We are not in any just one high school. We have 15 different high schools where we have what's called future centers. So we have direct space where we have college advisors. We have 2 college advisors that work with students in grades 9 through 12. And so while we don't work with students in grades below, we often do presentations to 8th grade families that are considering schools for high school, so that they learn a little bit more about our personalized supports that they can get once they get to the high school level. Not only do we have supports at the high school level, even if your student doesn't attend one of the 15 future centers, they can still access some of the information that we have on our website. Students that meet certain eligibility criteria are eligible for up to $3,600 for up to 4 years of our scholarship once they get to college, and then also supports to make sure that they graduate successfully their post high school program. Um, so our future centers really concentrate on supporting exploration, career exploration and personal development, setting up financial support, so access to scholarships, to early preparation in grades 9 through 11. And then with the hope that by the time they get to 12th grade, if we've had a student that's been working with us since ninth grade, by the time 12th grade hits, them and their families feel really confident about their options and their pathway and what they want to do. So you can visit our website specifically to get personalized checklists that detail a little bit more about our supports. Here are the schools that we're in. If you have a student that's in any of these schools as early as ninth grade, they can start meeting with our advisors. So definitely recommend that you set up a meeting if your student is in any of these schools. Like I mentioned, even if your student isn't in a future center school, you can still access these checklists to get an idea of what type of work can start happening in ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade for families to feel like they can confidently support their student in the process. And now I will hand it back to Leslie.
All right, so we learned about the amazing resources that students have from Diana. So now we're going to go a little bit into the discovering. We've had those conversations with our student about maybe what they're interested, what they wanted to do. We have the resources now to get those conversations going on the academic level. So now we're going to go on to discovering. How can we align the interest to an actual possible career? So first and foremost, in the career search process, you need to pay attention to your students' interests, like we said, things that they can spend hours doing and things that bring them joy and that they're passionate about. We really want to make sure that our student is choosing a career where they're going to feel like they're being successful. So some examples of some interests aligned to careers are going to be things like makeup. Your student can get into cosmetology. If your student is super into volunteering, things like social work and nonprofit work might be interesting to them. If your student is really into building things, using their hands, they can look at engineering or things like construction management. If the student is very fond of being out in nature or being outside, they can look into fire science or being a park ranger. If the student is super into social media, their phones, these kids love their phones. Students can take that passion and put it into marketing or film production. And then finally, also video games. They can take those skills and put them into careers like coding and computer science. So right here we have what we like to call the land of possibility, the pathway park. So this is just a way that we like to show students that there are multiple different ways of being successful, or everybody has their own path of what success looks like. So what we really want to highlight is there's different degrees between certificate to the bachelor's degree and associates to a certificate, vice versa, anything, all of them connect to each other and interlink, and they end up leading the student to the land of possibility. So what we really focus on here at the Denver Scholarship Foundation is stackable credentials. And so if a student starts off just saying, you know what, I want to do the least amount of school possible, they can start off with a certificate. Those programs are anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. And then they finish and they're like, okay, perfect, I can get a job. But then they might feel really passionate about their career that they're in and say, you know what, I actually want to get a bachelor's degree. And that student can then get that bachelor's degree. And when they go out into the career field, they can say they have both a certificate and a bachelor's degree and they're going to be successful. Again, this is with all the different paths in the pathway park, both a certificate, associate's degree, bachelor's degree. We really emphasize that the student is attaining some type of post-secondary accreditation, no matter what it looked like. And there's so many opportunities to intertwine all three. So now we're going to be talking a little bit about what those actual partners are and who we at the Denver Scholarship Foundation partner with. So these are all going to be nonprofit institutions in the state of Colorado. We don't partner with all of them. There might be some nonprofits that we don't partner with, but that's just because maybe we don't have as many students interested in those programs, but they're still amazing programs. So we're going to start off with technical colleges. So these are going to be hands-on learning. Like I mentioned, these are going to be programs anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. So these are going to be programs like barbering, esthetician, cosmetology, welding, medical assisting, short programs for students that are very hands-on. And the cost of these programs are going to be anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000. Next up, we're going to have our community colleges. I forgot to mention in the previous one, technical colleges are going to allow a student to get a certificate, and then our community colleges, sorry, Diana, I have you going back and forth. Our community colleges are actually most likely going to be a student getting an associate's degree. So these programs are going to take around 2 years, and they choose what they want their major to be, what their interest is. And on there is the list of partners that we have. So these are going to be all around the Denver metro area. And the cost of these community colleges is going to be anywhere from $4,000 to $9,000. Yes. We'll go to the next one. And then the next one is going to be our 4-year university. So these are going to be to get a bachelor's degree. These are, again, listed are the ones that we partner with. And the cost range for those is going to be $30,000 to $80,000. These, again, are going to be full-length 4-year degrees to get a bachelor's degree at the end of it. So as you can see, there's a very drastic change in the price points of some of these universities. And the cost of college can be a very big barrier for a lot of families, but financial aid is out there. So every student can apply for financial aid regardless of citizenship regardless of citizenship status. So in the state of Colorado, we offer what's called the CASFA, the Colorado Application for Student Financial Aid, in which the student can then qualify for state financial aid if the student is undocumented or has DACA status. We will be having a webinar in March that we're super excited about where we'll go a little bit more in depth. But every student can fill out the federal application for free student financial aid and see if they qualify for some government assistance. So when you are exploring college costs, it's very important that the students start making a list of colleges and start looking at that cost to see what might be attainable and just having those conversations with family members. What we really recommend students use is going to be a net price calculator, and that's going to show you exactly what the schools are going to be charging you. There is the collegecost.ed.gov/net price. So that's that website that you see at the bottom there. That is a general website provided by the government of what cost can look like. But if we go to the next one, there are some school-specific net calculators. So that first image is the U.S. Department of Education's net cost calculator. And if you want to get a little bit more specific, I know sometimes things can be a little bit outdated, then I would recommend going onto each university's website and seeing if they have a net price calculator, and that will be the most accurate information. All right, I am going to pass it over to Miguel.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Now that you learned a little bit more about the services that we provide, the work that we do with high school students, and also understanding a little bit more about that cost, we really want to talk a little bit more about that return on investment, knowing that college isn't cheap, but really understanding a little bit more about what is that return. So making sense of the Colorado economy, do you know what it means for your student? So Colorado's cost of living is about 12 to 13% above the US average. So an example here is typical housing rent in the state runs from about $1,500 to over $2,700 per month, depending on the size and location. And so when we think about those things, we want to make sure that our students, scholars, and students that are thinking about going to college, they have a good understanding about what this means for their future. And so really thinking about a career that's able to sustain them and have economic mobility. So living wage benchmarks, even a single adult in the Denver County needs at least $45,685 a year before taxes to cover basic needs.
¿Qué quieres que diga?
And so when we're thinking about these pieces, it really is to help gain a greater understanding of that investment. If we know that average rent is high, we need to make sure a student also has a greater understanding of what this means in terms of their own credentials. And so what you're seeing in the screen right now really is the median weekly earnings for Coloradoans in 2023 by the level of education and attainment for those 25 years and older. So this benchmark really is to help people understand that by the time you're 25 and have these types of credentials, this is roughly the amount of money that you will be receiving. All this data is also collected by the Colorado Department of Higher Education. And so someone with a bachelor's degree, you are looking at a weekly earning at about $1,405. Someone with a college or associate degree will be receiving around $956. Someone with a high school diploma will be receiving around $818, and someone who has less than a high school diploma is looking at around $768. In the grand scheme of things, well, that may be for a weekly earning. Median earnings between the first year, the fifth year, and 10 years after graduation by credential type. I won't cover every single one of these charts that you are seeing on the screen right now, but I do want you to pay attention to two close ones. Something with a certificate, starting off there, the certificate really is highlighting the green bars that you see on the graph. And that first year median earnings is roughly $48,580. But after 10 years with just a certificate, the median earnings by the 10th year should be around 61,299, showing a 26.2% increase from the first year to the 10th year. And now someone who holds a bachelor's degree can be roughly around the same as someone with a certificate. So we'll be having about $50,000, 355 that first year. But after 10 years with the bachelor's degree, their median earnings is around 75,798, almost doubling their salary by 50.5%. So from a certificate to a bachelor's degree, depending on what a student is really considering, know that they are doubling their growth depending on the credential that the student is receiving. And now, what are employers wanting and where the opportunities are in Colorado? So, employers across Colorado want skills and competencies, not just degrees. So, when we're thinking about these things, not only are we encouraging students to receive their appropriate credential, but also making sure that students are developing the in-demand skills that Colorado employers want. And those essentially are technical and essential skills. When we're referring to technical skills, students should be developing software skills, data analysis, network and system administration pieces. And when we're thinking about more of the essential skills, these are skills that they might be already developing if they are a part of sports, any clubs. You could start identifying those through teamwork, communication, critical thinking. These come up in employer reviews of alignment and gaps. So really this data comes from employers letting us know what really are they looking for when filling those positions. And then fields with strong pay and growth in Colorado, technology will be the first one that you'll see. And this is, for an example, a computer and mathematical occupation shows mean wages of around $119,872 a year. Now, a student with degrees around this area doesn't mean that that's the amount of money they will be receiving right off the bat, but it is estimated as long as a student also demonstrates experience. Another piece and field that we're looking at is healthcare and technical health support. And while this is also wide range, someone that is, for example, looking at a dental hygienist in Colorado, their salary can be anywhere from $62,873 to about $85,218. And again, this is just an example for the dental hygienist in the state of Colorado. And then the other in-demand field, it will be business and finance operations. I do not have a range for you here because it is one of the highest paying jobs in categories, but it also has a variety of them. So this can be anywhere from like marketing to finance to wealth management, and all of those do have a variety of salaries depending on what exactly the student is interested in. So what this means for the student. So they, at the end of the day, need to find a pathway that builds both credential and degree and skills aligned with employer demand. And this really is what equals the return on investment for the student. As long as they find that credential and degree and understanding that alignment of their own skills, that's really what's going to provide that ROI for the student, which is return on investment. I hope that was helpful to paint the full picture. We do have additional sessions coming up March 11th from 6 to 7 in English. We will be providing a family's fuel futures preparing for the college process. So if you do have questions about how to prepare for that college process, I would highly encourage you to attend. And then on March 11th, simultaneously, we will also be doing a Spanish one about preparándose para el proceso universitario. And then on Saturday, May 2nd, I would love to invite you as well to the DPS and DSF Explore Auraria campus. So if you've never experienced it or have been wanting to revisit the Auraria campus and get a little bit more information about CCD, CU Denver, or MSU, this is a great opportunity to come and join us for that exploration piece.
Real quick, Miguel, we made a typo. We made a whoopsie. Our apologies. The Spanish session is on March 18th, not on the 11th. So that's our fault.
Yeah, that was Diana's typo mistake. I will be sending all of this information to Jasmine. And so She can add it to the newsletters with information on how to register. We're really excited. This is the fourth year that we are partnering with DPS and with Auraria Partners to host families. So it'll be free breakfast. There's going to be tour, some resources, some giveaways, just an opportunity for families to be able to bring the entire family. So when we say you can bring the grandma and the littles and your students and come experience what it's like to just be on a college campus, especially for us first generation students, being able to have my family on campus. Any chance that I could was a big deal because they're supporting us through the process and we do this as a family. So we really want to make sure that you all can join. Um, Please follow us for more. Here are our handles for Instagram, for our website, and for Facebook, where we will have more information, bite-sized learnings, and ways that you can be connected to different programs that we have. Um, there's an opportunity to share your thoughts. So if you want more specific information around a certain topic, a certain industry, we would love for you all to share that with us. And I can drop that link in the chat as well.
Y también hablamos español, so si tienen sugerencias, no dejen de dejarlas en español.
Absolutely. And now we would love to open it up for questions.
Well, to get the question train rolling, we had a couple of YouTube questions I'd like to bring up. And then anybody that's here on the live Zoom, feel free to just come off of mute or put it in the chat, and we're happy to answer. But one of the first questions I would bring up is, what's a simple thing that a parent can do right now? We have middle school parents here, we have high school parents here, where they can start to make college not feel like if, but feel like when this happens. Like, where should they start if this is the first time they're hearing about the conversation?
I talk a lot, so I'm gonna let Leslie or Miguel answer and then I'll jump in.
I can take it. I think something that we mentioned was just having those conversations with your student. I think a lot of students aren't sure if they want to go to college. And so I think just being curious and seeing what careers or what things interest them so that then you can get the ball rolling. Like we mentioned, technical colleges are only a half a year to a year and a half. And so if your student is like, I hate school, but I also want to have this certain type of career, that can definitely be an option for them. I think for our 9th through 11th grade families, that's also a very big question that we get super often. And a big thing that we can recommend students is we have so many options as DPS students to take different classes that are within the career paths that we want to take. And so taking advantage of those opportunities, especially, we have students who are like, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a nurse. And then they take one of our career technology classes, and they realize that they hate blood. And so then we're like, okay, well, you can't be a nurse if you hate blood. And so really being curious and starting to investigate a lot of these different options that students have, take advantage of everything, any pre-collegiate programs that are out there, any, like we mentioned, the career navigators, any internships, any career-related field trips, just taking advantage of all of those so the student can really get a feel for what careers they might be interested in.
Mm. Absolutely. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate that. We're starting to get some comments in our direct chat on Zoom, so we'll start here. There's a couple more questions outside, but let's start with Megan. So Megan asks, if our students are not in a school supported by your program, is it possible to bring a program to their school? What does that process look like for Denver Scholarship Foundation?
That is a great question. We would love to have the capacity to help all high schools, all students. And throughout the years, we continue to expand a little bit at a time. But if you currently don't, I recommend starting with your counselor to see what type of resources are available at your high school. If your counselor wants to connect with us, Jasmine has my information. I can also drop it in the chat. Counselors can connect directly with us, and we are happy to do like a one-time presentation on services. Unfortunately, we can't support students individually, like one-on-one advising if they're not within the schools. But we do have a lot of resources on our website that I'm happy to kind of walk through. If you send me an email to make sure that families feel comfortable navigating that.
I think also, like we mentioned, we do a lot of community events, and so we always host community FAFSA nights where we were helping students fill out their FAFSA, complete their FAFSA, where the student and their family can go to get some FAFSA assistance. Like we said, the DSF Exploraria Days, like that's open to all DPS students, and so that's another amazing way to get some of that information. The virtual series, so we did this presentation actually last year, and then we have the one in March coming up, and so we have a lot of community events that everybody is welcome to assist.
Thank
The
you.
other thing that I will mention real quickly, because I see someone mention DSST Cole. While we don't have a future center in some of the schools, one of our team members is in charge of sharing sort of our general resources and doing monthly newsletters directly to those schools' counselors. Also, DPS high schools, as long as they meet the eligibility for our scholarship. So generally, that's being all 4 years of high school within a DPS high school, and they can have moved from one high school to another in the district, but they would have had to do all 4 years, have financial need, and have at least a 2.0 GPA, they can apply. So we send that information. So if you have a current senior, our scholarship is open and is due May 1st. So definitely, I will drop my email in the link. Definitely shoot me an email, and I can share a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Diana. Can you guys hear me? My screen is freezing again, so I just want to make sure I'm actually here
I
before
can
I
hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for that response. I fully back what they're explaining because as a partner, the resources they have are very powerful, irregardless of if you're at one of their schools or not. But if you're not at one of their schools, keep in mind there is College Career Success team within Denver Public Schools. So do not hesitate to advocate for your child and speak up at your school and ask, what resources do you have right now for my child? Because there might be some other opportunities that we didn't talk about here tonight that are available at your school through Denver Public Schools directly. That was just a team that we typically partner for FAFSA with and weren't able to have here as well tonight, but happy to connect you as well. You guys all have my email, so I'm happy to do that too. But to push us forward, we had another question in the chat. I want to make sure that we touch on. Johanna had mentioned if she wants to study an associate educator degree, she's worried her child might lose the opportunity to use that first generation scholarship. Do you know anything about that?
I can take this one. So if a student does decide to pursue an associate's degree and then later decides to transfer, it really depends on the university that the student is looking at, and they have specific scholarship opportunities for students. Take, for example, CSU. CSU does have a first generation scholarship, and there is one separate from high school students to transfer students as well. So the opportunity doesn't go away. It just really depends on the university the student is interested in going to.
Excellent, thank you. And I will acknowledge in the chat, I'm seeing people want these resources. So send them to me. I'll send them out to like everybody that registered. Happy to do that and be the middle person there. Megan mentioned one more. Were there resources for middle schoolers as well? I know you guys were primarily focused on high school, but like, is there anything you would recommend that would be beneficial for middle school parents to focus on?
I think while we don't support directly middle schoolers, families being able to see those checklists of what's coming in 9 and 10th grade, especially, and supporting with that transition of having those conversations. So when we think about those essential skills that Miguel talked about, like teamwork, communication, critical thinking skills, those things happen every day at home, right? How are you approaching this thought? You had this homework assignment. It's not just a do it and leave it, but approaching them, asking further questions. Well, what do you think about that? Do you think there's a different way to solve that? Do you think there's a different way that you can approach this? And it really depends on the student, I would say, in terms of how far you push in terms of like, okay, let's start looking at some of these things. Let's start looking at some programs. Um, one of the things that we would love to develop, I think in the near future is doing a webinar like this for families on summer programs. So in middle school, there are different programs. I know CSU has something. I know CU Boulder has something. MSU has something where they invite, whether it's on a summer basis, whether it's enrolling in a leadership program where they can start in sixth grade, they can start in eighth grade. And one of the really cool opportunities is that they get to see college level kind of critical thinking and education at a young age, and they get connected to an institution. And even if they decide not to go to that institution, what it does is that it allows students to start feeling really comfortable with like, oh yeah, I've been to CU Boulder all the time, right? Oh yeah, I stayed a week at a campus at University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. So kind of really starting to show students what's coming in bite-sized pieces, and having those conversations, it can be really helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Diana. Johanna had another question. Resources for internships. Is that something that you guys provide, or would that be something that I ask centrally?
This is a great question that I could take on, Diana. So we don't specifically have specific internships for high school students, but we do collaborate a lot with Denver Public Schools Career Navigator. So if this is a resource available for students, this is a great opportunity to kind of help support. And I believe Diana dropped in the email as well. That really helps parents connect a little bit more with DPS to see what other opportunities are for students to have internships, because they do exist to provide the experience for students while in high school. And they typically also tend to happen not just during the school year, but also over the summer.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Miguel. That's helpful. And Johanna, I will make sure that I provide some resources from central office around that, because I know we have a lot of good opportunities for internships. So unless I see anything else, drop in the chat. We had one final question, and it kind of loops into like my gratitude for you guys presenting today. I come from a family where my mom did not go to school. My dad got his electrician license associates when I was in high school. So going to school was really prioritized anyways, and I'm so grateful they did that. And one of the big things they pushed towards me was applying for scholarships. I think there was an Oprah episode my mom watched where a girl applied for like 500 scholarships, and statistically she got like 100 that paid for much of her career. So I followed that pathway too. I applied for about 150 scholarships. I received 75. So please keep in mind that there are opportunities for small scholarships, large scholarships, and all of them matter, because I was able to pay for a year and a half of my schooling through tiny middle cornfield Iowa scholarships. So this is something that can really make a big impact on your feelings of being able to access this, whether or not you have the money or not. There is money out there, and it's worth working towards. So final question around that. We opened with a beautiful story around families starting to understand this really complex process of creating opportunity for their children. Based on the questions we've seen from families and knowing that you work with families on the day to day, like, is there any other stories that stand out to you that might resonate with the families that we're gifted to be with tonight?
I've had the privilege of working at the Denver Scholarship Foundation for 10 years now, and there's a multitude of families. I worked for almost 6.5 years at Manual High School, have experience at Bruce Randolph, at North, at GW, at working with families at Northfield, at throughout the district. And what I will say is, every family, very similar to everything Jasmine said at the beginning. We believe that families want the best for their students because it's true. We believe that families have the power to support their students because they do it all every day, all day, throughout the most key pieces of their life. And something that sticks to me is that when we support students, we're also supporting families. And Leslie and I are part of our internal parent and family engagement committee where we are really trying to elevate our supports for families, which is so great to be able to partner with Jasmine and the great work that her team does with families because the number one thing that we hear from families over and over again, even if they're continuing, if they've done college at some point, if they have degrees, or if they're first gen, they want to learn alongside their student. They don't want to be told just what to do and give me the information and leave the student do it on their own. There's a level of independence and learning how to self-manage, but families want to learn alongside their student. And so we're really excited to be able to offer opportunities like the Explorer Area Campus, where you get to come with your student and be a student and learn new things, even if maybe those institutions are classes that you took there at some point. Maybe you got a degree from MSU, but you get to experience it with your student. So um, there's so many different experiences, and I am just really, really excited and grateful that all of you chose to spend an hour with us. And I hope that you will continue to bug us and you will continue to look through our website and ask questions. And if you don't get the right answer the first time, ask another 15 times.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Dana and Miguel and Leslie. And thank you so much, families, for being here and learning with us again tonight. I want to acknowledge the time that you spent. Thank you so much for being here. We're very grateful. We're going to go ahead and close out our live stream, and we're going to move into our giveaway because we have some items to give away. So bear